right angle. Before the war, it was the business downtown of Berlin. But then, approximately 60–70% of all this area were destroyed by bombs. And in East Berlin, they were not really very much interested in rebuilding this part, because it was too near to the wall. And that's why most of the buildings here, except for those which survived the war, were only rebuilt in the recent 15 years. You can see on the left-hand side, cheap post-war buildings are now being removed, and all that block will be a luxury block with expensive private apartments and hotels. Before the war, there were also many banks. The headquarters of banks, of German banks, which are today in Frankfurt, were here. You see on the right side these stone facades of old bank buildings. They were confiscated in 1945 by the Soviets, and the banks escaped to Frankfurt, but they left their buildings here. And the federal government is not entitled to give the buildings back to the banks, so they are property of the federal government. Now they are empty, they are a sort of reserve for the federal government. You see also on the left side all these old bank buildings. Okay, we had to take this round trip because of the roadblock on Wilhelmstraße, and you can also see these dull, grey, prefabricated slab apartment buildings built in the late 80s by East German government on the place where before the war the government buildings were. Ladies and gentlemen, on the right side, this is the toilet, by the way, bathroom, just in case. But let me now tell you, or use the microphone to tell you something about where we are before we leave the coach here. Where are we? Behind us, there are the buildings, the apartment blocks, which used to be government buildings. And this area were the gardens of the government buildings. Ahead of us, we can already see the park. This is the Tiergarten Park, and it was already the British sector of the city. So this area was completely empty 20 years ago. In the 90s, there was an initiative of German Parliament and several citizens groups to build a memorial dedicated to the murdered Jews of Europe. After long discussions, controversial discussions, and more than 300 different projects, this memorial was built. It is the project or designed by New York architect Peter Eisenman. It's 6 years ago it was completed. It consists of 2,711 concrete stelae, up to 15 feet high. The territory is undulated. It is open. You can walk in. Just be careful because it's undulated. It can be also dangerous. You can injure yourself. There is also a small place of information. You can see the people climbing down the steps over there. They will pass a security check, and then there is the small underground place of information. Not now. Okay, not now. You need more time, of course. And let me just tell you, you will definitely, someone of your group will ask, why this is the number of stones? Why do they have this form? Why do they have this configuration? The only answer is, ask the architect. He was asked, and he said, this is the freedom of creation. And you are free to have your feelings or not. Some people have emotions here, some people don't. This is This has nothing to do with authentic places of concentration camps or whatever. This is just here in the central part of the city. And the only reason is that no one can say, I have not seen it. You cannot not see it. You cannot pass and say, I haven't seen it. Everyone sees. Everyone knows. This is the memorial, and it tells what happens. What happened. On the left side, by the way, those apartment blocks are on the spot where Hitler's chancellery was. The main building, representative building of Hitler. And between us and the buildings, there are also parking places. That's where the bunker was of the chancellery, where Hitler committed suicide in the last days of war on the 30th of April, 1945. Don't go there, don't look for anything. There's nothing. All the bunker was excavated and filled with rubble. So there is nothing. But we know where it happened. So, I was talking long enough, ladies and gentlemen, just in case you would like to dispose of your metabolized coffee or tea. Or what about the drinks? You have the chance now, when you walk back at a corner, there are the letters WC, and they are charging 50 cents like in most places of the city. Now we have 10 to 3. We have 10 to 3, so we have good time. I think 15 minutes would be fine here.
If any of you are inspired to, I urge for you to just walk through some of the blocks on your way to WC or back and take a chance at thinking about this as a memorial. I think it's very effective.